There we go. Everyone, welcome to our 1 o'clock session with the lovely and talented Jo Geddes from Fayette County Schools. She is here for the next 2 hours. Our first session with Jo is on role play in the health education classroom. Jo, we are happy to have you here. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Yes, I teach, I'm from Lexington and I teach at Tate's Creek High School. I have all 9th graders and I just finished year 18. So I'm finally in like the single digit countdown, which is kind of nice. So thank you for allowing me to present today. I'm trying to make these interactive presentations. So at one point you will be in breakout rooms practicing some role plays and then performing them via Zoom. And then I have lots of chats and Padlet activities we will do. So this session is called Role Play in the Health Education Classroom. So in the chat, I want you to go ahead and write down what comes to your mind when you hear the word role play. Are you like this comic strip here when you say it and your kids are like, no, no, or like what comes to your mind when you hear the word role play? Skits, okay, acting. I like, anyone else? Nervousness? Yes, I think a lot of us. Kids get excited, acting is the first thing. Awesome. So hopefully shy, mixture of kids wanting to or being shy. Yeah, so hopefully, oh yes, refusal skills. I think refusal skills are probably like the #1 skill that we probably most feel comfortable doing role play. So throughout this presentation, I hope to give you tips to help you become more comfortable in doing role play in the classroom. Okay, next. Why is not, here we go. Okay, so everyone role plays to practice and build confidence before the real thing. So like, for example, this whole week, I practiced this presentation about 5 times. I role played to make sure I was ready for the real event. Or think about, I'm sure some of you are coaches, maybe. How many of you before a big game, like you do walkthroughs and practice the big plays before the real game? Or if you are married, I'm sure when you got married on the night before, you did a rehearsal and you role played walking down the aisle, you role played doing your vows. So we all role play every single day to practice for the real thing. So, but we want to take that role play now and put it into our classroom as we teach our students the health skills. So this is like a learning theory pyramid. So if you look, just to give you an idea of like why it's so important for us to implement role play into our health education classrooms. So if you're like the classic Ben Stein and you stand and deliver, like lecturing, students are only going to retain about 5% of what they learn. But if you look down the pyramid, if students practice by doing, they're going to retain 75% of the knowledge. So you want to do more practice by doing, more role play than just standing, giving lectures and just telling students, this is the skill. We want them to learn how to role play and actually practice the skill. So what must occur in the teaching learning process for students to develop skill mastery? So we have to give our students the opportunities to practice the skill. We have to give them an understanding of prompting and ending using an assessment tool, if there is one, and I will give you examples of these at the end of the presentation. Give opportunities to assess performance when using their skill, allow students to assess their own performance as well as their peers, and the development of belief in the value of the skill and personal confidence in using it so students can achieve self-efficacy. And this just shows you a little continuum on like why it's important to teach this, the role play in the classroom. So we all have Jefferson County, Fayette County, we all have like our health curriculum or health education classroom. So we have, that's like the foundation. Then we're going to build on that, and we're going to teach the development and teach the needed skills. Then we're going to help students learn to use those skills in like everyday situations that are not like life-threatening. Then by doing that, we're going to increase their confidence in using those skills. When they increase their confidence in using the skills, then they're going to be more likely to use those skills in relevant situations, such as if they're at that party or they're having their big first relationship. So they can use them in like the actual real life make or break decisions. And then when they can make those big decisions and big real life experiences, they're going to increase their confidence again, increase their self-esteem, and then reach the highest, like master health literacy, mastery of all the skills. So we want to teach them in the classroom, so then when they get into the real life situation, they are confident to use these skills in when it counts. Okay, so role play is the method of acting out real life situations, allowing students to practice putting themselves in those new situations. It's a strategy to practice the skills. It allows students to take risks with new ways of behaving in a situation without fear or failure. And then it allows students to learn how others react to various attitudes and behaviors. And I love it. So in my classroom, I love pushing my students out of their comfort zone. And I think role play is a great way to do that with your students. Okay, so if you click on the Padlet, I am an 80s child, so I'm obsessed with all these neon colors. So if you just do the blue and pink one, can you all see it? Can you all have access to it? Let me put the link in the chat in case you don't. There is a link too. So go ahead on the Padlet and put what has worked well for you when you facilitate role plays, and then what has been challenging. We'll do the green and the yellow ones later on. So what has worked well for you and what has been challenging? These are some good answers so far. So we have what's worked well, giving them plenty of time to practice. Yes. Allowing students to choose their own partners and groups. I agree with that one. Seeing the light bulb, that's always huge. Reflection after each skit. I like that, whoever wrote that, because we're going to talk a big part of why feedback is essential at the end of each role play. Challenging or barriers, getting participation, keeping the younger kids serious. Giving them the right amount of time. Refusal, yes. Getting to students to buy into the activities when it's communicated. Yes, these are great answers. We're going to talk about barriers as well. These are all, I think, barriers that we all can relate to. Are all of you secondary, some elementary?
They are all all secondary folks.
Perfect. Okay, so let's go back and see here. Okay. So I have some research-based curriculum that just pretty much backs up why it's important to have role plays in the classroom. For example, Making a Difference says the role play scenarios are designed to provide participants with the confidence and skills necessary to negotiate condom use. Role plays also recommend a variety of ways in which the prevention skills learned in this program can be implemented in the participants' lives. So that's just making a difference, just one curriculum that shows that like why we should be doing role play in our health education classroom. And then Reducing the Risk says that effective programs included activities that addressed social pressures on sexual behaviors, provided modeling and practice of communication and negotiation skills. Okay, so basic elements of a role play. So these are all the steps to have a successful role play in your classroom. So first is we want to build a sense of community in your classroom. Your students have to feel safe. They have to feel wanted. They have to feel like that community, so they don't feel so I'm looking for scared or nervous. As the teacher, then we are going to introduce and model the skill. We then, as the educator, go through all of the skill steps of the skill. We model the skill again, and we have to provide time for student practice. And I think time becomes a big barrier because it does take time for role play. You're not going to knock out a whole class of role plays in one class in one block. I don't know if you all have block in Jefferson County. We have 90-minute blocks in Fayette County, and I have like 40 kids in a class. So I have to have multiple days of role play. I can never knock it out in one day, never. You have to visually end and begin the role play. Always give feedback on every single role play, and I'm going to give you tips on that as well. And then process to reinforce what was learned as you watch that role play. And I believe I have this, and I will actually, if you want the doc for this, let me know, as I can put that in the link too, or you just copy and paste from this for the elements for the role play. Okay, so now, so for this Padlet, back to our Padlet, I want you to tell me, what do you do to include, what are some inclusion activities that you have used or observed in your classroom? So basically, what have you done in the past, any activities you have done that you have all of your kids involved? Like, for example, I like to give every single kid a role, so no kid is left out when I do an activity, so they can't sit there and say, well, I'm not going to do that. So they have a job to do. So does anybody want to share any activities you have done to make sure all students are included in like little classroom activities? Awesome. Anyone else? Cool. Allow them to pick their roles. I like that too. So this one. Okay, let's see here. So these are some This is why it's important. Like I like how someone said the roles and the jobs, and then allowing them to pick their roles. That gives them more ownership, and they get to pick that responsibility. So it's important that you include everyone in the role plays. So it creates an atmosphere of trust among your students and the teacher. It allows your students to encourage each other. It takes out that competitive piece, and it allows cooperation in the classroom. It allows students to practice their self-esteem. I know as a high school teacher, I think we all could agree that self-esteem is usually not its best at the 9th grade level. So it helps improve that. It can improve motivation. It can improve student behavior. And it also decreases that sense of isolation because every single person is included. And I have let students choose their own groups, and I've also let students pick groups. And I think that is kind of like a teacher discretion. I mean, I'm sure I have some classes in the past that I would never let those kids pick their own groups, but then there's other classes where they can pick their own groups and be fine. So that's like teacher discretion to see what works for you. So role play progression. So this is just a little tip to see how you want to progress in your role plays. So we always model this skill first as a teacher. So if you're teaching refusal skills, then we model the refusal skill. Then after we model it and we have gone over all the steps, then in your groups, you can give your groups a script that you as a teacher have already written out. And that takes some creativity. And there's tons online. If you just want to find somebody, you can use the ones I give you today. That's fine too. So then you give the students the script and they practice the refusal skills using the script you give them. So after they master that part of the role play, then you can give the students a semi-script. So you can give them the little scenario, like the setting of the play. And then you might have the first 2 lines, and then they have to write out their refusal skill of what they're going to use, like what refusal skill would they use, and like actually write out what that student would say. You can do a half script, so the students are writing majority of the script. You can give them a scenario. This is like you just give them the whole scenario, and then the students write the script. Or you can, like the highest achieving would be the students create their own scenario. I personally do not usually let them create their own scenario because they can't. This sounds bad, but my freshmen sometimes struggle with thinking outside the box, and they will take 45 minutes just trying to write a scenario, when I would rather have them practicing the skill for 45 minutes and not writing a play. And this is also cool if you ever want to cross discipline with like your theater teacher. You can have your theater kids help write your scripts for you, and then you can use that in your health education classroom. So you to kind of figure out what works for you. I usually like just to give my kids the script and have them practice, or like the semi-script. I am usually so crunched on time that I usually do not let them create their own scenario because it takes them too long. That is teacher discretion, and you need to do what works for you. But you definitely want to make sure you model first, and then make sure you give them a script to read before you go the next steps. So these are some guidelines that I have found successful with role playing. So what I do is I like make these like a poster. I'm sure you all have like a teacher resource center. We can go like make your own posters in in Jefferson County, but you can go make your own poster of these and like post them in your classroom. So each unit, you can just reference the role play guidelines on the wall, so if that's easier for you. So you want to tell your students that when they're in the role play, they want to think about how the person would actually behave. They want to stay in their role throughout the whole role play. So once they're done with their speaking parts, they just won't walk off the stage or like in the front of your classroom. They stay in their character the whole time. encourage your students to not let comments and laughter distract you. And I know they get the giggles, so you have to try to tell them just to not let those comments. And if they laugh, I usually just say cut, and then we do take two. Really try to feel and act like you're the person playing. And I like to encourage students to try the different roles, and I like pushing them out of their comfort zone just so they can see how it feels being on the other end of a situation. And then let's see here. Role plays must demonstrate the proper positive use of the skill. That's huge. So you want to make sure they're showing the proper way to use the skill. I don't usually let them, so you don't want them to be impromptu. Like, we're not doing improv. So you want them to have like some sort of script, whether you started it and they finished it. And I would always look at their scripts if they write them before they go up and perform them. Then make sure there's no negative props. So you'll have those students that will try to roll up the joint with like paper, or they will use their flash drive as a jewel pot or as a jewel. We're not going to use any of those negative props when we go over refusal skills or decision-making skills. And then I like to make sure that the role plays always have a communication skill component, like in like the feedback or like the checklist. So that means like I'm looking for eye contact. I'm looking for voice level. I'm going to look for active listening skills. So that way, when students role play, they're actually getting practice with their communication skills, as well as practicing refusal skills, practicing decision-making skills. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone there.
So one thing, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So one thing I do, so I teach, it's 8th grade, but I teach the high school standards. And I was just thinking, like, for instance, like bullying or something like that. When I do bullying, I do let them actually create their own scenarios. And it can be school related or not school related. I give them like 10 or 15 minutes to create their scenario and write their script. But I do a couple things. I make each kid be both the bully and the victim. So they have to actually show that they can do those skills. And then I actually give the kids, like their peers, a checklist also that are random. And I tell them who they're grading, I guess. And so they can see what their peers thought they did well with, you know, the different checklists, as well as like giving them mine so they can see it all. But is it bad to like make them, I mean, because they don't last long. I tell them, I'm like, we're not doing a beginning, middle, end, you know, play. It's just like a skit. But I feel like I need to see each kid perform each skill if I'm really trying to like teach these skills.
Yes, I think that's essential. Yes, I think every kid, and I have like role cards here. I'm going to show you all in a minute. Like, I like the role play to have like 2 people. So like, it's not like 6 people in a skit, because then you only have like, you have 4 just standing there. So like 2 people are conversing, and then in your group of 4, then you have the other 2 people being the feedback people. And then they each rotate roles. And then the 2 feedback people have like checklists to do in their group. And then you can give your whole class checklist. So I'm all about that. Yes, I think they all need to practice. I think what you're doing is amazing. Give each kid, they have to practice doing the bullying and defending themselves. Is that what you're asking me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to like make sure that was okay, that I like make them do all of it, or, you know, show it. Sorry.
I feel like if your kids, if you can give them 15 minutes and they write their own scenario and they are on it, then I'd be all about it. Because I think it gives them ownership to, they have more power. And I think kids like that ownership and responsibility. I just have classes in the past, my kids, they could not, like I would tell them they have 15 minutes to write a script, and they would be over there saying, what are we doing this weekend? What y'all doing this weekend? And they would get nothing done. So I think it's just class discretion, teacher discretion. I think that's amazing. So how long? So they do all 4, and then do you have your kids do it in front of the whole class, or do you have them doing in groups and you rotate around to look at each group?
They do, they're in groups, they're either partners or a group of three. And if they're going to do a group of three, they have to justify what that character's role is for me. And they basically, they're the bully and the victim or what. And that's just that. I mean, we do this with relationships and all kinds of stuff. But for that specific one, it's just a partner or a group of three. And they're playing all the roles. They have to be the bully, they have to be the victim, and show that they can, use their iMessage, that they're using their nonverbal skills cues and all of that. So
That's all. I think that sounds great.
sorry.
Yeah, I have little ones too. Oh, you were so cute.
You can say hi.
I like your curly hair. Okay, so then yes, if you have questions, feel free to stop me. I'm awful by looking at the chat. So just say, yo, Joe, I need to have a question. So don't be shy. So I find what works for you to start and stop your role play. So I ordered a clapper to show you all, and it got lost on Amazon. It never came in. So I don't know why I don't have it, but I ordered it like a month ago. So you can use like the clapper. I like to have a student be the camera person, and they stand in the back of the room, or they'll say lights, camera, action, and they'll go like 3, 2, 1. I use cut instead of freeze. And then I've had to do it, and I'll say like take 2 or like take 3. So figure out what works for you to start and stop the role play. Whatever you choose to do, just be consistent so the kids know when I say freeze, it stops, or if I say cut, we are done, so they know what the expectation is there. And then the students can use it. So if the students are doing their role play for you and they mess up, then the students can say cut, so they know they messed up. Just like the real actors and actresses do, and then you start over. So I would just have that set from the very beginning so students know what's expected of them. And then with cueing, you can also cue students if they get stuck. So if you're watching your role play to assess them and the student gets stuck on like what to do, you can help them. You might give them the exact words to say. If you do have to help a student and the student goes ahead and finishes it and does, just give positive feedback, find something positive so the student doesn't get embarrassed doing a role play. We don't want kids to get up in the front of the room and get stage fright and freak out and get all embarrassed and then never want to do this again. So feel free, like, please help out your poor children in the front of the room or in their groups so they realize it's okay if I mess up, I can help push you along. Okay, so feedback is so important, and that is where like the whole timing comes into play as well. So you want to give feedback, and I love, Kara, how you say you did that with your checklist. You want to give it as soon as the role play is over. So you want to make sure that the feedback has happened after the kids are out of their role. So after the whole thing is finished, you want to give feedback on their performance of the skill. We're not really want to like give feedback on like their acting abilities. This is not theater class, but you want to make sure their feedback on the skill is very important. You can say things like, I like the way you stayed in your roles and you read all of your lines, or I really liked how you followed all of the skill steps. So positive feedback. We don't want to tell a kid, oh my gosh, that was the worst role play I've ever seen in all my life. We don't want to tell students that. We want to be positive educators. So with this, if you have kids in a group with their role plays, you want to have students can also give feedback on themselves and on their peers. And I like to have students give me feedback on their own performance. So what do you think went well? And that kind of puts them on the spot. They might say, well, I was really nervous at first, but then I really liked how I did it. Might just be, I did it. Some kids are so nervous about doing anything in front of their peers. That might be a huge step for them. Or the kid might say, I had to cheat a little bit and look at the wall for the steps of the skill. That's fine. Or they might really like being like, I really liked playing the football player in the skit. I never played football before. So they might like to give them a chance to give feedback on themselves. And then as your class becomes comfortable, that sense of community, then your class can give feedback. So if you're in a small group, you might only have like 2 peers give feedback, Or if they perform in front of the whole class, you can have the whole class give them feedback, like with a checklist, and just encourage students that we're only going to focus on what was done correctly. So we're not going to put students down. We only focus on the positive for the for each role play. So for the role plays, you can do them in like small groups, or you can do them in front of the whole class. Again, that's teacher discretion. So obviously we have tons of skills for health. So what are some health education skills that you have covered or could cover in role plays? That would be checklists. I love it. Bullying, relationships, communication, refusal skills. Anybody else? These are all great. Does anybody do decision making? School boundaries, yes. There's so much in health that could be in a role play. It would be really cool for you guys too in Jefferson County if you all, I don't know if you guys have like a shared Google Drive, but if you did for example, a role play on refusal skills, and you created up some scripts where you all could share them amongst everybody. So then you're not getting like stuck like, oh my gosh, I defined all these scripts for communication. That might help out too.
So that might be something that I could pay some people during the year to help write. We have a shared Google Drive. We don't have a lot in it yet. So if some of you guys will be interested in writing some role plays and doing some of this stuff, I will be very willing to pay you. I've got money this year. My budget got doubled because of ESSER funds. So I have money to pay folks for their work. So if you guys will be interested in something like that, I would totally be down to pay you.
You can also talk with your theater teachers in your buildings, because you can say, I'm doing refusal skills on, because ours had to practice like playwriting. You can say, I need some scenarios for refusal skills around drugs. Can your students write these for me? And then you can knock out that whole cross-discipline piece too. If I find some good ones, or if we write any in Fayette County, I will share them with Mimi so you all can use them too. We will spread the love. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so I have an example of a role play. So I'm going to put two of you on the spot. So this here is an example role play. If it comes up here in my computer. Okay, so so the answer is no role play, okay, from Safer Choices. So here's the stage. So you and your partner have been going together for 6 months. You are sitting on the couch together kissing. Your partner wants to have sex, but you do not think you are ready. So you stop kissing. So this is the role play between Kate and Sam. Do I have any volunteers who would like to be Kate and any volunteer who would like to be Sam? I'm totally putting you guys on the spot.
I'll do one.
Thank you, Alex. Do you want to be Kate or Sam?
I'll be Sam.
Thank you. Do I have any volunteers for Kate?
I'll be Kate. I just have to find it.
Okay.
Oh, no, Kara said she could do one. Kara, you can gladly do one.
Okay, so I want to act like you're in Miss Geddes's health classroom. So I want to say lights, camera, action. And I say action, you're going to start, okay?
All right.
Lights, camera, action.
No, wait. I don't want to do this.
Why?
I'm not ready for this. It's just not the right time.
Being ready just means we love each other. You do still love me, don't you?
Yes, but that doesn't mean I'm ready to have sex.
Nothing's going to happen.
I know, because we're not going to do anything, no matter how much I love you. Come on, let's go for a walk instead.
That was great. Thank you, Kara and Alex. So then you can say like feedback, like Kara, I liked your firm voice from the very first line, and I like how you gave an option for the refusal skill. You gave another idea of what you can do besides kissing. So you always want to give feedback when they are finished. And they're short and sweet scenarios. You don't have to write a book when you're trying to write a script for role play. And over here, I found these. I'm not going to show these to you due to time restraints, but if you click on these, this is this. I don't know if y'all have seen this on YouTube, but there's this program that's pretty. I like it on. What's it called? You might have seen it before. My computer is being slow. There's a ton of videos with students doing different skills. Here it is. I don't even know how to say that. This Shetty County.
Are you going to?
But they are all legit role plays. They're like scenarios that you can like show kids, like even though they're acting them out. Those are videos of how you do a role play, how you do a refusal skill, decision-making skill in a scenario. And there are a ton of them for middle school kids and high school kids. I linked one middle school and one high school on here to look at, but there are a ton on YouTube. If you follow that school, you can see a lot of resources. And you can also, if you wanted to, like, kind of mimic their script and use it in your own classroom for your role plays. Okay, so this is kind of like talk with, like, I think Kara mentioned earlier. So I like to put 4 people in a group. So 2 people are role playing and 2 people are the observers. So when you finish role playing, so the 2 role players, then you have the 1 observer is using a checklist. They are giving feedback on the performance. The 2nd observer is processing what was just learned. And then they rotate jobs. So every person does each job 1 time. So you're going to be both observers, both role players. And that takes time. So you have to make sure that you give yourself enough time to finish the role plays, allow the feedback, etc. So for this, these are questions that I like for processing what was learned. So you can copy and paste these and put them on a Google Doc. You could have like a laminate them and use dry erase markers. So you just pull them out for each time, whatever works for you. So the students are saying, like, what did I see? What was interesting? What was the importance of hearing this role play? What does this mean for you as a high school student? What does this mean for you as a middle school student? What might you take? What steps might you take if you were in the actual situation? So then they each rotate through and do each one of the jobs. And then these are some checklists. This is one on that comes up. It's being slow. Like a checklist you can give the kids, like, to check off to make sure they've done all their skill. This one's on communication. If it comes up, I have so many things open on my computer. Here we go. It's like role playing. Like, this is a communication one. So do they have eye contact, clear message, eye message? So you can use these. There are, you can also use these for all of your communication pieces if you want to assess communication in every single role play. Down here is a way if you want to do this for points, like if you want to weight this, if it's like an assessment grade, how you can weight it if you choose to. There is another one that I pulled. This is from Sarah Bennis and Holly. I never say her last name right. This their whole skills book. This is like their relationship role play rubric on like relationships, like make sure that you just go through and just like check through as they do it. And this is straight from their book. What's their book called? I'm in my brain's not working. Lesson planning for skills-based health. So this is, and there's tons of rubrics out there. Once you find a really good rubric that you like, you can just change the wording for each skill. So again, you can have like the whole class do a checklist. You can like Kara said, you have certain kids assess different groups. Or maybe group 1 assesses group 2, group 3 assesses group 4, and they perform in front of the class, and then you all take turns. There's lots of different ways that you can incorporate feedback. You just want to make sure students receive immediate feedback when they are finished with their role play. So these are some barriers. So this goes back to one of the first Padlets. Keeping students on task and focus. I like to give students a set time. I'm a big YouTube timer person. I will post on the board, you have 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, so they can see how much time they have left, so they know they have to stay on task. I found that has helped my kids a lot, so they know they can't go and say, what are we going to do this weekend? They can like focus. If you are a shy teacher, or this is like out of your comfort zone, like I'm making you nervous right now, like you might like, oh my gosh, this is not, I can't do this. You can do it, I promise. But you might just want to do like baby steps, okay? Don't go all in full force at once. You might have shy students. You might have aggressive kids. You might have those lovely sarcastic students. I think time is huge. So you want to make sure you time, like in Fayette County, I have 90-minute blocks. So I mean, you can't cover the whole class in one class period. You're going to take like 2 or 3 days to get all your groups, make sure they all practice all 4 roles. You have time for feedback. You want to make sure the kid is not finishing a role play as the bell rings, because then there's no feedback for 2 more days, and then they'll forget all about the role play. So make sure, so time is a huge barrier. And I'm sure you guys are like us in Fayette County. We never have enough time to teach all the content or all the standards, and you're always crunched for time. You might have behavior issues, and we always have those little darlings that like to walk that fine line all the time, and they like to cross that line. So sometimes you do have students take it too far. So it's kind of teacher discretion. I would not do role plays the first week in August. You have to build the community up first, get to know your students first before you throw them into role plays. Okay. Any questions before we start practicing role plays? You have like 10 minutes. Okay. All right. So here's what Mimi helped me do breakout rooms. So I have there's been 2 groups, and I'm going to post in the chat really quick. Let me, hold on. How do I post this in the chat? Hold on. I stopped sharing my screen really fast because I want to post these scripts in the chat for you. So for the script, you are going to, in your groups, you're going to figure out who is going to do which so group 1, you're going to do the first one, and group 2, you're going to do the second one. So in your breakout rooms, you are going to, what happened there? Oh no, I'm having technical difficulties. So in your breakout rooms, you're going to use the semi-scripted plays. So you have to finish the last 2 lines, and I want you to practice. I want you to figure out who is going to be role play 1, who's going to be role play 2, and who's going to be the observer. And I think we have about 5. Speaking of time, it's a barrier right now, but we're going to practice it. Like, we'll see if we can get through it one time. And then since we're a small group, I'm going to let you practice say yours in front of all 10 of us. Does that work? Okay. So Mimi,
Joe,
do you want?
Yeah,
All right,
Joe, you're going to have to be in a group, and I'll be in a group as well.
Perfect.
All right, I'm going to, does anybody have a question before I kick you into groups?
So group 1, do scenario, the first link, and group 2, do the second link.
All right, here we go. Uh-oh, hang on, I've got to exchange. There we go.
Recording in
The other group must still be working. So when was your all's last day of school in Jefferson County?
The 27th was the last day for the kids of May.
You guys went late. We were out so early this year. We got out May 18th. It's like a record for me teaching. We've never been out that early my whole time.
Wow.
It's been, I'm not going to complain. It's kind of nice.
That's awesome.
Okay, so we are going to see these amazing role play skills now. So we'll do group 1 first. And I'll share this screen so you all can see it. And then Mimi, you want to share your screen when group 2 goes maybe?
Sure.
Okay, here's our setting. Victor and Mario are at a party. Several other friends are smoking cigarettes, and you can change that and update it to Jules if you wanted to. And they are pressuring Victor and Mario to smoke with them. Victor and Mario don't really want to smoke, but they don't want to make their friends mad at them. They are standing outside trying to decide what to do. Lights, camera, action.
I don't know what to do. Everyone's smoking except for us. I feel kind of dumb.
What are our choices?
I don't know. I had a grandpa die from lung cancer. That's why I don't want to smoke.
That's awful. Maybe we should just ditch the party and go bowling.
Cut. I love it. So since I've already given feedback, so the rest of the audience, what is a positive feedback you could give your peers from group 2?
Go ahead, Tracy.
I was just gonna say we actually both agree on what I think I think we both agree on what I'm going to say is like using that personal experience and kind of like almost an emotional appeal of not wanting to do something because of a consequence that a family member dealt with. That was
Awesome.
really
Okay, group 2.
Okay, so I thought it was Marlo. My glasses are not working today, so I'm Victor and Tracy is Mario. All right, I don't know what to do. Everybody is smoking except us. I feel kind of dumb.
What are our choices?
My grandma died from lung cancer. That's why I don't want to smoke.
Oh, that's so awful. Maybe we should just ditch the party and do something else, like go bowling.
That would be great. Let's go.
So group 1, what is some feedback you would give your peers? Crickets.
Tracy and I feel unloved right now. We feel ashamed.
Really?
I love the personal appeal as well, and I love giving the alternative. I think that's huge. Because kids really there's nothing to do, but if you give like the alternative, there is always something else you could do besides make that poor choice. Okay, and then let's see here. I believe that is it. And that's it. There's my email and my Twitter handle. If you have any questions?
I actually do kind of have a question. And I'm like a kind of new teacher, so I haven't had a ton of experience with this, but like, where do you draw the line between like allowing your students to say like, no, I feel uncomfortable doing this, I don't want to participate, and like pushing them out of their comfort zone to make them more comfortable?
You always have those students. I instead of having like their group of 4, if they don't want to do it in front of the whole classroom, I'll have their group just do it in front of me. And I usually like to do that first. I'll put them in groups, and I'm lucky my classroom is like right next to like this big atrium. So I can have my kids go out in the hallway to practice, so we're not all like crammed like sardines in my classroom. And I'll like rotate around and like watch the groups. And I usually just let them do it like just their 4 with me instead of having them go in front of the whole class and try and let them get acclimated that way first. Because I have some freshmen that are like panic attacks if they think they have to speak in front of peers. So that's what's worked for me. I won't force them to do it just because I don't want a panic attack happening in my classroom. But I try to like feel that kid out. And if I think they can do it, then I'll push them. But I'll always like try to do it first, just like their small group before the bigger one, if that helps at all.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Because they're still practicing the skill. They're just not doing it in front of 35 people. I also want to tell you, so on Amazon, they have little tiny, like, is it the Academy Awards for acting? Yes, or the Oscar. They have little plastic ones like this. You can get like 30 for $20 on Amazon. And I have ordered those. And at the end of the units, I will give like the best actor or best actress award for who did the skill the best. And those become very prized possessions. Like they love it. And I'll make this huge, like, in the red carpet, here we have, and I'll make it sound kind of crazy, but you can get those too. I mean, I do some in money, but the kids love them. If you wanted to make it more, they think that's kind of cool because kids like little prizes like that.
So if you all will check the chat, there is a validation question. To those of you who are new to us this afternoon, this is how you get your PD credit. You have to click on that validation question and fill it out, and that's how I know that you're there. So if all of you will go ahead and click on the validation question and fill out that simple question, I will get you entered into PD Central during this next session. This makes me miss being in the classroom. I did role play with my little ones as much as we could, especially my 4th and 5th graders, and they loved it. We did a lot of things on financial literacy when role play, talking about learning how to deal with money and things of that nature. So we did a lot of stuff with that. So I always loved role play.
And you can have like, I have like a little cabinet in my classroom of like generic props, which I don't know now if I could use with COVID. Like I have like a blankets in there. I think there's a little Cabbage Patch Kid in there, like for like when we did like relationships and like the sex ed plays. I've had kids take like maybe like cars with like the table, like the chairs. You can be creative and have like a prop kit, like a props if you wanted to make them more fun.
Cool.
Yeah, I love them. It's fun.